Good evening. My name is Carol T. Wilkinson, and welcome to Mirror of Magnificence. Mirror of Magnificence is about making a difference. It's about inspiring. It's about reflecting magnificence, and my guest do exactly that. Tonight I'd like to introduce to you my guest, Shirah Penn, also known as Grandma Shirah. Has taught little children since 1960 for the Miami-Dade County Public Schools. She knew early on that teaching little children was her life's purpose. Shirah spent years on self-growth development and incorporated what she learned into activities to be used with the children in her classroom. She was mentored by Jack Canfield, who later became an international best-selling author of Chicken Soup for the Soul books. During her teaching career, she earned many awards until her retirement in 2002. She is an author of 2 children's books, Grandma Shirah Says Words of Wisdom, and Grandma Shirah Says More Words of Wisdom. As Grandma Shirah, she is able to connect with young people and adults to teach them self-esteem. Tonight, Shirah is going to talk about self-esteem. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Carol. It's so wonderful being here for this wonderful show. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm so happy for you to be here. Okay, well, let's start. How did you get to be called Grandma Shirah?
Well, that was many years after I had started teaching. When I was 50 years old, I became a grandmother for the first time. And during that time, I did a lot of work on my own self-esteem. So as Grandma Shirah, I felt that I had a voice to speak for the children, for their self-esteem. So that's about the time that I created my books.
Okay. So when did you first become interested in self-esteem?
Actually, in 1971, when I received a master's degree in education from the University of Miami and a divorce from my first husband, I realized that I needed to work on my own self-esteem.
Yeah.
And the biggest lesson that I learned at that time was that I was attracting the wrong kind of people and men into my life, so that I knew that I had to change. And that began my journey of self-esteem.
Okay, so then there came a time in your life when you were mentored by Jack Canfield. Can you imagine? An international, well, he later on became an international author.
Yes, when I met Jack Canfield, it was in 1981. So that's already, I've been working on self-esteem issues for 10 years. But I took a seminar called Insight Transformational Seminars. And at that time, he was also a teacher and a facilitator for this program. And he took an interest in me because I was working with little children. So as a result of his support and encouragement, I created what I called Loving Circle Time. It was an opportunity to work with the children in my classroom and develop their self-esteem, help them develop their self-esteem.
So Loving Circle
Time.
So tell us about that. What was that about?
Well, in kindergarten and first grade in those days, there was always a circle time where children loved to share, and they would bring in all kinds of things for sharing. Where Loving Circle Time came in was that I took activities that I learned from Jack and from other facilitators that I could incorporate in the classroom. One of the first things that I used in a circle with the children was a little heart, a little red velour heart that was created by a man named Cliff Durfee in his program to teach people to listen with your ears and your heart.
Oh.
So the person holding the little heart gets to share, and the rest of the group is to listen, really listen with the heart. And that seemed to be a lesson that little first graders and even adults need to learn.
Exactly.
How to be a better listener.
I agree with that. So that's how you incorporated this, what you learned about your self-development with the children in the classroom.
Yes, I would take a lot of seminars and workshops. I took, like, say, for example, Wayne Dyer. In those days, his first book was about your erroneous zones. So those were the negative messages that we listened to in our head that we responded or reacted to. And as the years went by, we all learned that when you change your thoughts, you change your life. So by teaching young children early on, I am hopeful that they will have the tools needed when they become teenagers, or when they get into situations where someone tries to bully them, that they don't have to believe what other people are telling them. And so they feel good about themselves and develop their own self-esteem.
So Wayne Dyer, right? He has a lot of books out there as well.
Right, he's a very well-known
Yes, he is.
author.
Exactly. So you learn from all these different wonderful authors and implemented it in your classroom?
One of the very first mentors, and he became a pen pal, was Leo Buscaglia. A lot of people don't know about Leo Buscaglia. He's since passed away in 1998. But he originally was a professor in California, and his topic was love. And he realized that many of his students were so isolated and lonely. Some of them, one of them in particular, did commit suicide. And from that point on, he realized how important it was for him to connect and reach with his students. So he hugged. He would actually make a line. They would make a line to give him a hug. And what I did, which was taking a big risk, I wrote him a letter. Because of course in those days I didn't have such great self-esteem, so I figured, oh well, if he answers me, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But he did, and because he answered me and he encouraged me, it was just, I had a fascinating pen pal relationship with him over the years, even up until about the time when, just before he passed away, I got a letter from him. So all of those things added to my self-esteem.
Exactly.
And I was able to share that with the other children in my classroom too.
Exactly. Better way. Now tell us about this little doll. What is?
Well, this is my representation of Grandma Shirah.
Yeah.
So Grandma Shirah, for me, represents that finally I have arrived, that I can speak my truth, and that I don't have to feel self-conscious about what I say and if other people are going to like me or not. Now, it's a shame to have to wait till you're, 50 or 60 years old before you finally feel that way. But, so that's one of the reasons why I like to start with children when they're young.
Yes, it's very important, especially in today's day and age. It's a well-received teachings. Okay, well, tell us about your books here. I see you have a couple of them. Can we show?
Right.
Can we show them?
Yes, the green one. This one was actually started with the children in my classroom, and I had them illustrate it. But when I retired in 2002 from the classroom, I found an angel in an angel store, literally. She was an artist, or she is an artist still. And she chose to work with me and illustrate these two books, plus I have a third one that I haven't self-published yet, so that's in the hopper.
Yes, and I understand you published it with your husband. You and your husband published these books.
Yes, we were able to work with my illustrator, and we sent the books to Venezuela. They were printed in Venezuela. Now, this was at the very beginning of my endeavor to be an entrepreneur, and I had no idea what I was doing. This was before I joined WPN, Women's Prosperity Network, and before I joined several of the other wonderful women's groups that I belong to, and I've learned so much since then. That's been 12 years ago. So my book did not sell very well, and of course my self-esteem said, oh well, maybe people just don't like my book. But since then, I've learned that it's not that at all. It has to do with how I market it and promote it and get it out there. So these are little sayings that I would say to the children over and over and over again, and I think they're always good, little things to remind children of when they're young. And the second book are quotes from famous people.
Oh, wow.
So I took, for example, a quote by, this was Jack Canfield's quote that impressed me so much. No matter what you say or do to me, I am still a worthwhile person.
Wow, that's neat.
So for me, anytime that I feel bad about myself, because a lot of times we're hardest on ourselves than other people, I remind myself that I am a good person and that I deserve to have good things happen to me in my life. So that was his. And another lady said, what you think of me is none of my business.
Yes, I've heard that phrase many times. And it's a great phrase, actually.
So those are the things that I put in this edition of the book. So,
Okay, well then, what is the most important life lesson that you have learned? With your self-esteem?
absolutely. The important lesson that I've learned is that self-esteem is such an important thing to develop within yourself, and you have the choice. You can choose to listen to that little negative voice in your head or turn it off. And in my second book, Grandma Shirah says, the mind is like a computer. When you put negative thoughts in your mind, press delete. When you put positive, loving thoughts in your mind, press enter. You are in control. And that is so important, I think. So that's the most important lesson that I've learned.
Well, that's great. So tell us, tell our viewers how they can connect with you and how they can get your books.
Well, right now my books are out of print, so we're working on rejuvenating them and making them more reasonable. But right now, the best way to reach me is shirahpenn@yahoo.com. My Facebook page is the easiest way. I'm on the Facebook a lot.
Okay, all right. And you do workshops and you do private consultations and
Yes,
stuff like that?
yes, I do
Okay,
workshops
great.
once a month at my home. I call them Enlightened People workshops. And it's share and tell for grown-ups, where we sit and share the different things that we've all done some self-growth on ourselves. And
Yes.
so we like to share what works and what we could improve on.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Shirah, for coming on the show and teaching
Thank
us
you
all about
so
this
much.
wonderful self-esteem. I know we all can use that. So thank you for tuning in, and remember, mirror your magnificence.